All right, folks, this is WPblab. This is episode, it's like in the 30s now, right? We're somewhere in the 30s?
40. No, we passed 40.
Oh, 40. Oh, my gosh.
I just remembered.
Crazy.
We did pass 40. I know that. Well, October 1st is our anniversary. So we're...
1 year, yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. So the...
probably another
Are you going to do something?
I can't even believe it's gone on this long.
Oh, God. Hey, it works. Things happen. We end up with awesome guests. Like Rachel.
I know, I can't believe you're on our show.
Can you hear me? Do I need to put on headphones or?
Yeah, everything's
my audio okay?
Cool. The video's a little weird, like you're.
I just noticed y'all are both wearing headphones, and I'm like, I'm missing out.
The video's a little weird, like you're coming from Mars or something, but the audio's just fine, just fine. So, tell us a little bit about you, Rachel. Like, where are your beginnings, and then what got you into doing, the type of work that you're doing with WordPress, where you're trying to make WordPress better. So, start from beginning a little bit and kind of get us up to speed a little bit about you and where you come from WordPress-wise.
All right, awesome. So I started with WordPress in really early 2011, and I actually started using it because it was my job. I got a job at the University of Alabama, and they pretty much told me, we need you to build WordPress sites for us. And so I said, okay. And so I started learning WordPress. And I had like 6 months to build this like crazy huge multi-site and build all these themes and plugins and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun. And so that was definitely the beginning. And so I was at the University of Alabama for about 5 years until earlier this year when I moved out to California, where I am now doing WordPress at Disney. And so yeah, which is really cool. I love it, and it's a lot of fun. And so, but I do a lot of front end stuff. So I build themes, things like that. But I also do a lot of plugin development. I'm probably like 80% development, 20% designer. So, kind of on the topic for tonight, accessibility. I got a lot of experience with that, and kind of was introduced to it at the University of Alabama, because of how accessibility is ingrained in higher education. And it is ingrained in higher education because if you receive federal funding from the United States, you're required by law to meet certain accessibility standards. And so that obviously became a good part of my workflow and became a sort of passion of mine to support it and to promote it and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun on our campus. And right before I left, I was really excited when they got this other awesome woman named Rachel put together this entire accessibility plan that they started carrying out. And I got to kind of help pick the tools. And that happened like really early this year. And so I left right before the tool got there. But but accessibility is a really great I guess sort of kind of principle of web design and development, and I totally I'm a big fan. And so I also the WPCampus stuff that started last year. Obviously a big passion project of mine of trying to advance kind of web and web education in higher ed using WordPress. And so obviously lots of higher ed happening in my life, and I'm not full-time higher ed anymore, but who knows, maybe back one day. And I love it. And, I love what we're doing at WPCampus, and I love, the stuff that I get to talk about with accessibility. And in 2 weeks, I'll be at WordCamp LA, and I'm going to talk about accessibility on Sunday, which will be a lot of fun and excited about. And then obviously the stuff we'll talk about here tonight about my new plugin.
There are 30 tickets left for WordCamp LA, so buy your tickets if you're planning on.
Save me one because I haven't bought it yet.
Oh my gosh!
I haven't gotten there.
Yeah, about 30.
30 left.
30. Look, I haven't gotten around to it yet.
I know, but I'm
Yeah, we
just
might-
saying.
Oh man.
There
All
might be
right,
other people.
so yeah, I totally need to get that done. All right, so I love where you come from in this, in that much like my background of having to figure things out and then building on them. It seems like that's a theme within the WordPress community where a lot of folks will outside of the WordPress community, they'll just jump from one type of career to another type of career. It's like, I'm a doctor, now I'm a lawyer, now I'm a this, now I'm a that, and you're like, dude, like pick a thing and stick with it for a little bit, or at least have some type of working knowledge that you can, add on to it so you can grow a little bit more. And I love that you've just kind of added more and more pieces to it as you've gone through your career. And accessibility is huge, and it's something that a lot of people don't really understand and don't realize that unless they are in some country where, like, for instance, the internet's really bad, or they're not able to, have images show up on their web browser or whatever, and then they're totally thinking that somebody is like, thank you for putting alt tags on this thing so I know what to click on. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that sort of thing where it's just like, wow, folks, like, I love the fact that you're taking this yet to the next level and you're doing it in higher education. So thank you. I appreciate that. How do people start with this? Like, how do people like the basics? Like, Bridget just started a website kind of thing. What's the next thing that she should do accessibility wise to really, start looking at, what is it that people are looking for when they need better accessibility on a website? Where do they start, Rachel? Like, where's that?
What I would recommend, if you like really want to dive in, there's so do I need a Roll Tide? I ran by the Rose Bowl yesterday and I got all college football excited. So there's lots of information online. There are. Is there a delay?
There's totally a delay. So what I usually do.
We're on the real.
Hey, Rachel, what I usually do is take the window and kind of move it off to the side so that the chat is hidden, and then pull out the chat every once in a while just so you can kind of look and see what's going on. Because you're gonna get confused super duper fast.
Okay.
It's gonna be like an echo, even though there wasn't an echo. You're like, I talked about that 3 minutes ago. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, y'all like random laughed. I think it might be better now. Okay, I'm gonna try again. Take two. So there's lots of great information, obviously. To kind of start out, there's like 2 sets of standards right now, pretty much, for accessibility. Section 508 and WCAG 2.0. And if you want to dive in, there's actually a lot of great information. There's checklists. So I will recommend the WebAIM website, and I'll put these. I can put these links in the chat.
We'll put those into the show notes.
Yeah.
So
please and thank you.
So like here's like WebAIM does a really good job of kind of breaking down the standards that they're breaking down these 2 different lists. And so you can kind of go through and read them and get a good idea of kind of what they're looking for. And then an even simpler way to do it would be to run evaluation tools over your website. And there are a variety of them, and they all kind of do a little bit different things, but a lot of them are really easy to implement on like the front end of your website, where they will walk you through what needs to be kind of fixed, what's like, what's kind of, what's not working, and what you need to kind of give some attention to, is that you can go into your code or wherever and fix it easier. So there's things like in the Wally plugin, there's 2 things. There's the Totally tool, and then there's the Wave tool. And Totally is like really simple, and you can put it on any web page. It doesn't have to be a public web page. And it will walk through and kind of let you know if your color contrast is okay. It will let you know if your heading structure is okay. It will let you know if your image alt attributes are okay. It will let you know There's a new experimental thing in it where it will show you what a screen reader will read on a certain, like you hover over a section and show you, you know, what a screen reader will read out here. So that's really helpful. They just added that very recently. And so that one is pretty cool. And then Wave only works on like public facing because it basically crawls your web page. And so if it's not public, you can't access it. So, but it will do a really deep dive into the Section 508 and WCAG standards, and then tell you, you know, what's basically, it's like there's like red, yellow, and green. Like green, you're good to go. Yellow, you know, like it's kind of middle ground maybe, and then red's like you need to fix this. You need to get on the ball. And
so like Yoast for accessibility.
Yeah, pretty much. This needs attention. And so then there's other things that there's things like HTML code sniffer, which is really helpful. And they have a bookmarklet that's really nice. So like you don't have to like actually like put a file on your website. You just have this bookmarklet. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. And so you just like pull open a web page and you click this bookmarklet, and then it has this little, let's see, here we go. Here's a link. You click that and it pops this little pop-up at the top right and kind of walks you through a little bit of a report on that web page.
Okay.
There's also things like Axe. So like Axe has a JavaScript library kind of thing, but it also has like a Chrome inspection tool that goes in the console. So you can that's just another like thing you can do. So you can open up like, you know, any website, and then you would just open up your inspector tools at the bottom, and then there'd be like an Axe tab, and you click on it, and it walks you through a checklist too. So there's like a variety of tools that you can use to kind of walk through your site and see these like little things that need fixing. And so then it's a matter of just hopping in there, you know, and also like a lot of times, you know, like you'll fix these things that are like in your header or footer, you fix them once and they're like on every page and you're good to go. And so
do you do this while you're developing, or is this something that needs to be done as you add content too?
I feel like it's going to be easier if you do it as you go. So like if let's say like you're building a theme, it's going to be easier. It's like, I mean, you know, you don't have to test it every 5 minutes, but you know, maybe after like every change, or maybe after like once a day, you sit down and just like, you know, run a scan real quick. And just kind of see where you're at, because you know, I mean, it's going to save you some grief maybe later, because maybe you did some markup in a way that, you know, wasn't super helpful. So
how many errors? How many errors is bad on this? Like for instance, on that code sniffer, you know, I think I'm doing well, and then I go load it up, and I'm like, so I have 73 errors, and I have 129 warnings. Like, is that bad? Is that awful? Is that, you know, it's like doing speed tests. You know, you go hop on some new internet connection, and you run speed tests. You're like, let's see what we got, and then you know, you see that the bar go, that's about it. I'm not going any further than that. So what's good and what's bad?
Well, I mean, technically, like if there's any errors, you know, there's a level of non-accessibility. There's any red, like here, I mean, but you know, some, you know, like
you're so nice. Roy's like, that's terrible.
Roy, hey Roy, hi Roy.
Let's just say that there is red. It's not the red wedding red, but it's red.
Burn it with fire, Jason. No. You probably, yeah, it needs some attention. That's a lot of errors. It's pretty bad. Yeah, I would say your site is accessible. Whenever I go to and talk about accessibility, especially like at WordCamps, something like a little pro tip that I'll point out is like if let's say like you're buying themes, a lot of these tools like this bookmarklet and things like that, you know, they can be implemented on any website. So like it doesn't have to be your website. So pull up a theme demo and run the bookmarklet, or run, you know, there's a totally Google Chrome extension where somebody, you know, set up a Chrome extension, because totally is just the JavaScript file that you put on the page and it runs by itself. So there's a Google Chrome extension for Totally. There's one for Wave where it just kind of adds a button. And so you click the button and it opens up your website. So I always recommend people, implement these tools on like theme demos and kind of get a good idea up front how accessible, this theme is you're about to buy, especially if you're not a developer and you don't have a lot of chops to go in and, tweak it. That can kind of give you a heads up before you, make that investment.
I like that your website has 0 errors.
Which website?
Your website.
Which website?
No, I've gone to different different talks where somebody will be like, oh, let me show you how fast these websites load, and so they'll go through all the sites, and then somebody in the audience raises their hand and they're like, have you ever tried this on your own website? Because it's really slow.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be pretty bad if I got up and talked about all this accessibility and my site had like Jason said, 79 errors.
So Rachel, Meg in the chat is asking about how do you make your website beautiful and accessible? Do you have any examples, or do you know any example listicles or places where there's good, best practices with, design and.
Accessibility is definitely not does not equal, bad design. Something else to think about with accessibility is that kind of like the foundation of really good accessibility is just really good markup. And so a lot of times when your site is accessible, it improves the SEO and it just improves the structure, and it's just, and I'm kind of like in the back of my mind hoping that one day Google is going to get to the point where it ranks accessible websites higher, than non-accessible ones. That would be Roy. That would be awesome. And so off the top of my head, I can't think of an example, but I will sit here and, I'll sit here and try to think of one. So design-wise,
be a resource.
Do what now?
That could maybe be a good resource.
It'd be a great resource for Wally.org. So I will write that idea down. Thank you, Meg. Design-wise, though, there's only a few restrictions that I feel honestly, I don't see why you can't have a site that looks really nice and is accessible. So it's some front end, standards that you have to follow with accessibility is one being color contrast. So you can't have really faint text at the bottom like a lot of people do. That design.
Oh my God, I need that for me. Just wearing glasses and being over 40.
But that seems to be a design, thing, a nice design practice where people have really faint text at the bottom menu is almost hidden because the opacity is so low, and so all of us are like, what? And
I hate it.
And but to be accessible, or at least to meet, I think it's WCAG standards. I think the contrast has to be, or maybe. I think it's 4.5, but there are color contrast checker tools. Let's see, there's even one on WebAIM. So here, I'm gonna put the link. You can go in here and you can put in your background color and your foreground color, and it'll tell you if it passes, which is really helpful. And so, but also the Totally tool does that, and I think Wave does it. I can't say with confidence. But with that said, a lot of times, even with Totally and Wave, they're not gonna, and even not just them, I'm picking on them because they're on the plugin, but with any tool, the color contrast checking is not gonna be 100% because I feel there's possibility for error there with the checking. So it's always really great idea to kind of run these contrast checking tools to be certain. So color contrast is one. Another big one is you shouldn't use color to convey information or direction. So an easy example would be so let's say you've got a button that like is green, and it says like, and basically your direction is like, if you want to do something, click the green button.
Yeah.
Like, or yeah, something.
Right.
You know, like someone who is colorblind to that green, you know, is not going to see the button, or they're not going to see, like, they're not going to understand. And so another, like, one of the probably bigger examples for that though is more like, you know, how it's so common with links to be underlined. It's kind of becoming more of a design thing now, where people don't underline, they just change the color. And so that looks a little cleaner. But if someone's colorblind to that color, they're not going to see that it's a link. It just looks like any other word. And so links and actions need something besides color to, you know, to show them off. And so that's why underlining is, you know, what it is, because without that, you know, like if you're colorblind to blue and, you know, all the links are blue, then good luck finding, you know, links and actions in the text. But yeah,
So
I agree.
for someone who
can be done nice. No, she was saying that underline doesn't have to be bad, and I agree. It can be really nice, or, you know, it doesn't have to be a straight line. It can be, you know, dashed line, or, you know, whatever. It just has to have something besides color.
So for somebody who went and bought a theme, or you know, somehow acquired a theme, and now they're using it on their website, and they're starting to, you know, either get complaints from the fact that their website just is very hard to navigate, or that they've hired somebody to build their website, and now they're dealing with, you know, cruddy design, cruddy development, the thing's just not made right to, you know, to any types of standards. How do they, like, where do they begin with that? Should they just ditch the theme altogether and start from scratch? Are they making a child theme and then rebuilding a whole bunch of stuff? Like, what do folks do? Because I know that there's people in the chat room that are in this situation where they're like, I'm so deep into this particular theme, but now I'm starting to realize that I'm telling everybody to click the blue button, and there's no other indication that it's a blue button. So where do they start?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, a lot of it is in the markup of the theme, and if the theme, you know, if a lot of stuff they need to change in the theme, then that's what's got to happen. The theme's got to be changed. If they're not a developer, then it's time to learn a new tool, learn a new trade, and become a developer. Otherwise, change themes. I feel like I mean, if the markup is inaccessible, there's not a whole lot you can do except change the markup. Even in a child theme, I mean, like, there might be some, like, if the fix is like it's pretty small, you know, there might be some things you can do with a child theme, like overwrite, if it's just in this one template, just overwrite the template and make it accessible, you know, like, that's easy. But if, like, the core of the theme markup is bad, then you're either going to have to go and hack the theme and fix it, talk to the theme developer, show them a list of, you know, your grievances, say, hey, I ran through here, it's not looking good, you know, this, and this, you know, try that first, you know, send that to the developer, pass that along. I'm sure, I mean, hopefully the developer would appreciate it and then take the time to fix it. And then if they don't, then, you know, it might be time to move on to another theme. There's some stuff you can do. I mean, there's only so much you can do if you can't change the code. You can have, I mean, your content, like, you know, stuff that you do in the admin, you obviously can change that and things like that. But if it's like your header is all messed up or your footer is all...
Yeah, Bridget.
So it's more than just the style.css,
the
actual PHP-ness. So there's more than... Is that why you can't just pick it with a child theme?
So, I mean, yeah, there's lots of delay. Is it just Bridget, or is it me too?
It's all of us, actually.
Oh.
That's
So,
all of us. I try not to talk
a lot of
you because I'm seeing there's a delay.
How are we doing? I did the window thing. I'm good. Okay.
Good.
So a lot of accessibility is in the HTML, and so it's like, you know, it's embedded in your theme. So if it's maybe just your header file, then you could do a child theme and, you know, duplicate the header file and then fix it, and that would be okay. That would, you know, that would solve the problem. But if it's, you know, so you, I mean, it kind of depends on the situation. But and some is CSS, so like color contrast.
Do you think
like
that WordPress is going to go that way?
So you could, if it was just a color problem.
You know how, like, what?
We're all scared to talk. We're all like, no, don't say anything because I'm totally going to talk on somebody else.
Well, because I'm the worst, and so I'm like more aware of it. So I'll just do it anyway. I'll take one for the team. So, so my question is, do you think WordPress theme developers or the people that approve themes in the repository are going to go that direction? Like at WordCamp Europe, that guy, I don't know his name right now, I just forgot his name, had the question and answer with Matt Mullenweg. And he asked him, well, not all the themes are mobile responsive. And Matt was like, well, they should be. So do you think that they're going to go toward that way with accessibility like they do with mobile responsiveness? And that will sort of weed them out?
So I feel, was it Brian?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like they've started doing that recently, or they're doing something? So I just like last week kind of hopped on board the accessibility team, like the core, you know, hopped in the channel and started chatting with them. And so they, I do know that they are checking a lot of stuff, and I do know that they're working, you know, they've kind of in the very recent, you know, past started doing a lot more accessibility checking and things like that. And I think that Jonathan posted a link here in the chat that there's a tag for themes in the repo that are accessible. So obviously not all of them have to be accessible to be in there. That would be amazing though. That would be amazing if they had to, in order to, you know, get through, had to pass, you know, a check, or at least, you know, maybe like, you know, got a certain percentage. I would hope for 100%, but that would be amazing. You know, maybe that's something that, you know, we can start working toward. And so, to set an example, I do know when they built 2016, they had a little bit of a focus on it, and they tried. I do know that it's not 100% accessible. It has some issues, but I feel like they were talking about it a fair amount, and they were testing it, and they were, you know, we had some issues with, you know, we pointed out a few things, and there's some color issues in it, and some colors that aren't accessible and things like that. And I think there's some heading structures that's not, or something. But I do know that they're trying, and they are making an effort. Could they make more of an effort? Probably, but can't we all? And I mean,
right. I just meant, like, do you think that that's going to trend that way?
I hope so. I feel like it's definitely becoming discussed more and more. And like I know that like I know that like higher ed can set a good example, and because it is a big focus in all our, like, it's their daily workflow. It's all, you know, we talk about it a lot in WPCampus. You know, we made sure we had a few chats about it at the event, and so I feel like we can definitely kind of help in that way, in that regard. And so but I've seen over the last like year or so it becoming talked about more and more. And I do like, I feel like in the next couple years that, so like right now it's just like, it's any institution that receives federal funding. So obviously all the government sites and stuff like that, they have to meet Section 508 standards. And so any education institution that receives money.
Right.
sorry. And so I feel like within the next few years, there's definitely going to be a push for businesses to be accessible. I feel like it's already started. Like I feel like a lot of I've seen a lot of articles recently talking about banks, like that banks are starting to be required to meet certain accessibility standards, stuff like that. So I kind of feel like over the next like few years, it's going to become more and more for just general businesses, and so that would be great. And so we're going to see a push, I think, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carrie Dills.
So, like, I came from.
Go for it, Bridget.
Well, I was just going to say I came from construction. So anything that you touch now has to comply with ADA. So I understand that the physical building has to comply. And there's a whole procedure with that. So I feel like my question is, there's a lot of people that build custom themes based upon frameworks. Is that what they're called? So is there a more accessible framework that they should be starting with? Like underscores or something? What do those people all call it?
Just,
I don't know.
Oh, like skeletons or frameworks or yeah.
Yeah, framework.
So I will say I may not be the best person to chat with about the theme frameworks because I always build my own. But I'm a big fan of like the Foundation framework. They put a lot of work into accessibility on their last release, and so I'm a big fan of them. But outside of them, I don't use a lot of theme frameworks. So for me, that would definitely be something for me to look in research wise for these conversations to share with people to use. But I mean, again, you could probably pull up demo sites for these frameworks and run a HTML code sniffer over it, or Wave, and you could kind of get a good idea for what they're talking about. A lot of these frameworks are they're very base level. Like even stuff like a lot of these stuff are like really bare bones. So there's really only so much accessibility built in. You're going to be putting your own markup on top of it a lot, unless it comes with components. Unless it's like Bootstrap and it comes with all these like JavaScript and HTML components for you to use. So like recently I've been playing around recently with more like CSS stuff like Bourbon and Neat, and so that's a whole different story. You build your own markup for that kind of stuff. But yeah, someone's been talking about like Genesis and stuff like that. I know like Carrie Dills works really hard to make her Genesis theme accessible. I think it's called Utility. And so that would be a great theme to check out if you are looking for an accessible theme. And it's a Genesis theme, and I think it's kind of meant to be like a good starter theme kind of deal. Is Roy making good points?
Yeah.
No.
I just pander to the
Let's
audience.
see what he's saying.
I know you guys have your own little. So, like, my next question is it only the theme, or can plugins also produce accessibility troubles?
Yes, plugins can create all kinds of troubles. So like plugins, it's not just like front end stuff, it's like back end too, like the WordPress admin. So like WordPress plugins, create settings, create like setting interfaces and things like that, are those accessible? So, you've got people that got to go in the admin and like, change stuff, and then you're using forms. So HTML forms can get tricky. You got to have labels, things like that. So then, because then on the front end, if the plugin is spitting out markup, is that accessible? And so plugins can be just as bad, as themes. And, plugins, I feel like, are even more difficult to test as far as like going in a repo. It'd be more difficult for them to test it because of the nature of them, and they can be tested. So something I'm trying to be like with the Wally plugin that I released. I feel like it's a good resource for someone building plugins and themes who kind of wanted to test as they go. So with Wally, you can actually enable the Totally tool in the admin. And so that way, when you're building, say, your settings page, you can have Totally working in the background, it pop up and kind of show you how you're going, how it's coming along. Because Wave can't test in the admin. And I'm working on some other features for some stuff to do testing in the admin, things like that. So yeah, you can definitely, kind of use these tools as you go on the back end and the front end if you're a plugin or theme developer to kind of see as you build how your product is looking before it goes out. And Roy did make a really good point. So that I will regurgitate. Something that's not technically a standard per se kind of is that I like to share about is responsiveness. I like to think of responsiveness as an accessibility kind of level to reach. And the benefit being that like a lot of people will look at the internet on various devices. It's not just a matter of like phones and computers, but like, maybe you have like an assistive device, something like that they're using. And so if your site's responsive, then it should, shrink down or shrink up or whatever to that assistive device, and it helps, in that nature. And I feel like that's not really a standard because these standards were, last made in like 2008. And so, which, responsive design wasn't really a thing, not really. And so like, it's not technically a standard, but I like to think of it, so that can really go a long way. I also like to think of download speeds, and Jason kind of mentioned this earlier. I like to look at download speeds as an accessibility, kind of standard because, not everyone has crazy fast, internet, and we're pretty lucky, I think, in our regards of this download speeds that we can access, but not everyone has that, and so if your site takes forever to download, and someone who has dial-up or something like that, crazy, whatever, then that information is inaccessible to them. And so it's just something to think about. And as you work on your site, there's lots of kind of different levels to it, not necessarily like things like color contrast and stuff like that.
Rachel, you're making me feel really judgy right now because I keep going to people's websites and then I click on the HTML code sniffer and then I'm like, ha, oh my gosh, this guy has 37 errors and 27 warnings. Come on, like really? And so I keep looking at them, and now to top it off, I go to some of these sites that we've been talking about, and I'm finding horizontal graphics that'll have like a couple different tables on there that will have all this text written inside of it in 1-point font, and it's an image. And it's not retina ready, and it's not none of this stuff, and it's like, it's like I don't want to do web development anymore because I'm doing it wrong. Apparently, I got like 175 errors on this website that I'm just like, wow, I don't even know how anybody reads this thing anymore. I might as well just do it all with just a bunch of images on the website and stuff, and make everything all animated with flashy psychedelics and whatnot, and get everybody all mad. Like I feel like I'm failing now. So what am I supposed to do here? And how are you going to get me to like want to be a developer still and be a good web citizen and actually build good stuff? Because right now I'm walking around and I'm all judgy and I'm looking at everybody's stuff.
So the best way to look at it is think about the people that you're helping. So the people that have accessibility issues, and the impact that your help and your work and diving in and just making these fixes and or being an advocate and things like that and sharing information and education, the people that you're helping from that. And so right now 73 errors might seem overwhelming, but I promise you'll dive in and you'll fix them in like 10 minutes, and and it's not really that bad, I promise. And so then what I will try to encourage. I always like to encourage people to kind of watch someone who has to navigate the web, using a screen reader or using a keyboard, and to kind of get an idea of what it's like and how rough it can be. It can be kind of exasperating even when a site's accessible. So imagine, how it is when a site is not accessible, and what it's like to navigate, and what it's like to have information that's just not accessible to you, that you can't get. And so, there's just like people. And a lot of times what I discover is that when I'll have these talks with people and they just never thought about it. They just like, they didn't know anyone, or they just never, just went down, just never thought about it. And so once you talk to them and they're like, whoa, and like they're on board. And so I feel like even just kind of talking about it and just kind of sharing a little bit and, can make that impact and keep the ball rolling. Yeah. And so I do, that's like why I made Wally, and, why I want to work on this new website. And because I do feel like also a lot of accessibility information can be a little overwhelming, but it's not impossible, and take baby steps. Like, don't feel like you have to, answer, every single problem within 5 minutes, like right out the gate. Like, it's an ongoing thing. And also the fact that like, no one's perfect at it, like we're not here to be judgy. No judgies.
But I totally am, I'm going door to door and I'm just like, oh my gosh, every single site I've gone to now, I've looked at them and I'm just like, wow, this guy has 138 things and he's selling a theme. That's great. Not buying that theme. Go to the next one. Oh, wow, look at this one. This guy's demo of his theme is all messed up. No, not doing that one either. And I get it, Rachel. This is why you build everything from scratch, because it's like, if anybody's going to do it wrong, it's going to be you, and you're going to be the one that's going to fix it. You can't go blame somebody else for it. But at some point here, I'm looking through one of the sites I have where it's like, this form is missing a label. Okay. And then another one's like, I used a graphical element as like a horizontal rule. Am I supposed to write horizontal rule as like the alt tag for it? Like, how much am I describing something to someone who can't see can't, maybe they're just listening to it or whatever. Like, how much am I over explaining everything on the web? And are they just going like, oh my gosh, dude, like I'm listening to way too much. Can you just get to the content already? Like, describe that to me, because I feel like you have to go crazy to be able to get 100% on this.
So that's another thing. Not all graphics have to have alt attributes. They don't, like, they do. I mean, it's always good practice to put the alt attribute inside the element, but it can be blank. So, and that kind of tells, I mean, basically you need to have the alt attribute, otherwise it's an error. But the blank alt attribute, will tell the device or the reader that there's no information, as opposed to it's missing information.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
That makes sense. And so with that said, not everything needs to be described. Like, you don't need to describe there's a horizontal line. Like, that, in my mind, like, that is distracting. Like, you just wasted like a second.
Right.
Like, I can't get that second back of you just reading out this horizontal line.
Like, have you ever used, whatever, if you're Android or iPhone, but have you ever used like where you just highlight the text and say speak it, right? And you're listening to this thing talk and it's describing every single Google ad that's on there, and it's describing every single little thing that's on the page, and you're just like, dude, I just need to know if I need to turn left or turn right. You know what I mean? It's like this, like it's too much. So I'm obviously I'm playing a little bit devil's advocate here, because I'm just trying to figure out, like, where is it that someone who like where is it that exactly, where do you draw the line here? And I think you've kind of described a lot of that, where it's just, you shouldn't go too crazy, but you need to be explaining stuff that isn't text.
Information that is not text needs to have a text equivalent. So a lot of times it's images, and so that's why you have the alt attributes. No, HR tags do not have to have alt attributes. But a lot of times it's images, and so if the image is conveying information, then it needs to have an alt attribute or a caption, and or actually both. So the example though, like if you have like a decorative graphic, like something that's just a line, or some kind of swirly thing or something along those lines, like there's no need to have there's no need to have a description. There's a swirly thing on the page, it goes on the topic of what we just said. That's kind of like wasting people's time. There are kind of accessibility things that you can add in to help them, help users navigate and kind of skip over elements. So something that's really common and really helpful is like a skip to content button that's hidden. And so it's hidden visually, but to a screen reader, you could click it and it would skip over like the header and the navigation and all that crap and go straight to the body, the article. Like if you're reading a blog post, it would go straight to the blog post. And that's really helpful because can you imagine if you were using a screen reader to read your website and every time you clicked on a page, you had to listen to them read out the header and read out the menu.
Yeah, it's like binge watching a show and you have to listen to the thing the whole time.
The credits every time. It's like, oh God, can we just skip to the show?
Netflix made it that way on purpose.
Netflix, thank you, Netflix. It was amazing. Saved me so much time. So you can do that, which is really awesome. Something else to keep in mind also is for accessibility is not only do actions need like colors, something besides color, sorry, but also it needs context. And so click here is really bad.
Oh, really?
Because click here does not tell me what's going to happen when I click here. And so, like, you can click here and good luck, like Godspeed, and what you're going to find. It's a surprise.
So are you saying that in the context of where I've seen, you see this all the time on the web where somebody does this, blah, 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 click here for more information, like that type of thing, or just blah, 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 click here? Or like, give me an example, like text-wise.
So like, instead of blah, 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 click here for more information, maybe the link is like, visit, our academics page for more information, or for more, like basically it's like trying to give them, don't make your links 20 words, but like you can do a better job of explaining why you're going to this page, like what you're going to find out when you go to this page, then click here. And, that was just something that the web did from day, from like for a long time of just click here. And
well, those links have also had, you also have the ability to put a title around that too.
You can put title tags, and that helps. But I feel like nowadays, I just kind of feel like click here is like lazy. It is. Right. And
yeah, I agree. So the reason why I was getting into that little bit of a rant there of like, how do you deal with this, is that there's been these plugins that have been around for ages now in WordPress that have taken the title of the graphic and will use that as your alt text, and it just kind of does it automatically. You don't even have to think about it. But if your image is IMG underscore and then some numbers because it came off your camera that way,
right,
and that's not helping anybody. So it's like, yes, I could put the red check mark. I could put the red check mark and describe that it's red as well, and in that box, and say, okay, I made sure that all my alt tags are all filled out, and they are, but none of them describe anything other than the photos.
So it's really helpful to go, and when you upload a photo, hop up in the media library, and there is a caption field or an alt. Or is there both?
Caption, description, and you can change the title.
Both, yeah.
Yeah. So just go in there real quick while you're at it. Like even and just add something. Yeah, all around. Like all the wins. There's so many wins, and it takes you 15 seconds a photo. And even if it's just something really quick, it's a whole lot better than image underscore 15 09.
So,
And
earlier you were talking about how you should have some empathy for those who have these issues. I was wondering because there's an architect I followed in Dallas, and their ADA group in Dallas arranged for an accessibility day. And I was wondering, you know, to him, even though he knew in a bathroom you needed a 5-foot turnaround, he's experiencing why you need a 5-foot turnaround, you know, in this wheelchair. His bathrooms have a lot of, there's so much in a bathroom. It's a densely, you know, packed space with a lot of code that affects ADA. So I was wondering if there's something like that where, you know, there's an awareness day in the web world for this kind of thing where you spend a day experiencing it. Do we do this? I'll put a link in the notes of how he wrote about it. But maybe we need to do that.
yeah, maybe we do. Like if we don't do it, we should do it. I know that there are ADA groups. Like there are like there's a whole, you know, big wide world of accessibility outside of web, and so they you know, they might do something. I have you know, my friend Rachel is, I may have to talk to her about that and see if she knows of anything that could look into. And if there isn't, then maybe that's something that the wally.org people, you know, could work on. But there are lots of options. There's lots of like videos and stuff online where you can watch, you can kind of watch what like screen readers do and stuff like that, which is really interesting. Right before we started, I was watching one. I've been, you know, trying to do some more research into like ARIA attributes and stuff like that. And I was watching a video where this guy was testing, if I can find it. I think I still have it open. Yeah, I do. I'll put that link in here. He was testing out this like live region update ARIA tag, which was really cool. Which I feel like you know, I've been seeing more and more conversations lately about like JavaScript and accessibility. You know, there's obviously it's becoming super popular these days to have you know, do a lot of front end loading and stuff like that using, you know, like Angular and React and you know, various JavaScriptness. And so, you know, kind of talking about how accessible that is, you know, when stuff is added dynamically, things like that. And so this was an interesting video if anyone wants to, you know, watch it when we're done, of a demo of how like a screen reader works with live regions. And when content is updated, you basically kind of put a tag on the content saying this is live, this could be live updated, and it will, excuse me, and the screen reader will pick up on that and read it. It's kind of cool.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, I've been seeing more and more, you know, because of the fact that folks are using so many different plugins, and just like how Bridget was saying, you know, can plugins, you know, mess up your site? Well, they can also introduce you to things. So I've been seeing quite a few ARIA type tags that are there for describing and being able to make, you know, that rich content accessible. And like, give us a little bit. I mean, I went and put the definition into the chat so folks can kind of do there, but give us a little bit of a behind the scenes as to what's involved in that, and then how
in ARIA,
how people are using it.
So basically, kind of ARIA is definitely the most kind of recent accessibility functionality or feature, something like that. And it kind of steps in. It attempts to kind of step in and fix the fact that accessibility hasn't been updated since like 2008. But what it does is it allows you to kind of define information that there's not like a standard way of defining an HTML. So like example, and like something I was just reading was like, let's say you're designing this like tabbed menu navigation. You know, there's no HTML element for tabbed menu navigation, you know, and so, but there's an ARIA, you know, landmark or attribute for that. And so basically it just kind of lets like assistive devices like screen readers and stuff like that kind of know what's happening when there's no kind of standard way to define what's happening. And so there's basic landmarks like header and footer and nav and stuff like that. And so this, I think these ARIA attributes kind of give a way for us to get a little more complex with defining and labeling our content and its functionality on top of that, that we didn't have before that. We didn't have a way.
Yeah, because those tabs could very much be just a div within, or a couple divs within a div, and then you have a whole bunch of CSS wrapped around it that just makes it look pretty. But really, when you're looking at it, it's just some stacked content that doesn't even have. It's not like they went and used a list item with a list or something like that and just made it all horizontal. So yeah, I can see where, you know, having a way to be able to say this thing is a menu, you know, even though it doesn't look like it's anything else.
Yeah,
I'm
believe me when I say this is a menu. And yeah, and I think there's like a widget role, and I'm trying to glance through now. So there's like widgets and animations and things like that. There's ways you can add labels using ARIA, like a way to label things that don't have an attribute to label them. Like if you wanted to label something that doesn't necessarily have, like if you wanted to label just like a div. Like right now, like with HTML, there's no way to label, like accessibility label a div. So you would use ARIA labeled by, I think. And so it's, yeah, so it gives a voice to things that didn't have a voice and to kind of help with accessibility type stuff. So it's really neat. It can be, yeah, it's really neat to kind of dive in. There's tons of resources online. Here's another one that people haven't. There's the one that I'm looking at right now. And so basically, like what this page says, ARIA has no effect on how elements are displayed. They don't add functionality. They're pretty much just meant to be an extra descriptive layer for screen readers. So so they can come in really handy,
right?
Especially since like nowadays, like basically it's like nowadays, you know, we're getting we can get so complex with our functionality that you would use ARIA to step in and help make your more complex content and more complex markup be more accessible.
So it's almost like a translator.
Cool.
Yeah, kind of. That would be one. That would be
the HTML and the actual interface is reading it.
Yeah.
Why doesn't HTML just change? It's just the question people are asking. I mean, if the W3 schools people are
good question,
to, like standardize HTML.
Well, yeah, why don't they just?
I must be missing something
here. Yeah. It's because we take you back in time real quick, Bridget. So there was a time and a place where Russell Aaron was making a bunch of crazy websites using MySpace, and they were just taking a bunch of HTML and throwing it into one box and hitting the go button, and then it would just make this website with like, you know, all this crazy stuff. And so they were all using really bad markup to make things look to them looked great on MySpace. So because of those types of things, what ended up happening is people have just figured out that you can just stuff all sorts of tags in there to try to make things work well,
so it's a Mickey Mouse
not
version,
or look
no
well, but not
Mickey
work
Mouse.
well. Like they don't break down. But yeah, it doesn't break down. You know, it doesn't. If you take out all of that quote unquote prettiness of it and really just make it just what it is, it just like we were describing earlier. It's like, you know, in this the link that Rachel put in there, it's doing a tab list and it's saying this particular element right here is the first tab. This particular element right here is the second tab. So it's just describing what those things are, even though in HTML from top to bottom,
so like
showing
that's
you what all those
superfluous.
pieces
If HTML just changed how they were, then it would start out accessible. Am I understanding this wrong?
Well, so ARIA doesn't
more complicated.
Yeah.
ARIA doesn't cover everything. It's just it's pretty much for screen readers.
Okay.
So I don't think that I made that clear earlier. So there are lots of other things. I mean, screen readers is just one kind of one thing in the pot, and so you still have to, you know, another big thing is like your website needs to be navigable by a keyboard. So that's another big accessibility thing. Like people need to basically be able to like tab and arrow and be able to navigate your site. And so like things like that. So ARIA is really just for screen readers. And so there's lots of other areas that you have to, you know, make sure your markup handles and stuff like that.
But yeah, really, Bridget, like push tab a whole bunch of times on one of these pages, and you'll see where it just starts jumping from one link to the next.
I'm so used to my mouse.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but in HTML, you can actually specify which order those tabs are going to be in. So as you're tabbing through stuff, instead of it going from left to right, you want to go from top to bottom, all the way down a bunch of columns, or jump from
time.
Or
I just learned something.
Did you just learn something, Roy? I think Roy learned something too.
No, because I remember that talk at LA that Jeff gave about how he doesn't use a mouse, and he calculated how much time he saved, and so he could go on a vacation. He saved 8 days worth of time, production time, because he doesn't use a mouse. That's like, wow, okay. I didn't know you could tab through stuff.
Wait, you guys got to wait a second, and you need to stop talking in the chat because I'm trying to take a screen grab of the time that I taught Roy something. Okay, here we go. All right, I'll put that. Man,
I know
to make sure that I got
because
that.
I was a secretary and I'm used to being in databases, but I didn't know you could do it on a website.
Yeah.
I mean, Tab is my best friend.
No,
I've been doing it
and
wrong.
tab index it makes it even more powerful because if there's a whole bunch of stuff,
now everyone in the
you want to
chat
make
is
sure
just
that you're
pulling
tabbing
at
the
websites
correct way.
tabbing.
Yeah, totally.
All this clicking sound and everyone.
You don't have to be doing that, especially when you're on a laptop because it's a pain to, like, my hand is bothering me from holding my phone so much because the Wi-Fi was crappy in the motel I was in. So I would just go, this sucks. I'm using my phone. And I realized, like, today I just had a shooting pain in my hand just because that's the hand I hold my phone in, you know? And you don't realize it, but this is, you know, my hand is, like, cramping. Like,
Bridget, you're getting Twitter thumb. That's what's happening here.
Grip.
You're getting Twitter thumb.
Just walk up this all the time.
I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like, you know, I've spent so many years mousing. You would think I had carpal tunnel. I spent like 3 days holding my iPhone. I got like shooting pain down my life of a social media manager. But that tab thing is amazing.
Yay! Tab
oh my gosh.
All right, Rachel, what other basic things can you teach us about that we didn't know about? No, for reals, because there's some stuff where you show people this, you're just like, what?
Yeah, because you're always showing us how to use stuff in the screen options in the dashboard. Right, you're always showing us that. We're always going, whoa, there's screen options in the dashboard. Every time. The whole crowd goes, wait, what? A developer.
This is a thing? Like,
well,
I used to like go through all the trouble with my plugins of like putting like making a help tab up there. Yeah, I don't think people care, so I stopped doing it. But yeah, those screen options, man. Let's see what else.
So what about some stuff that's built into Chrome? So like going into the inspect window, I know that there's some things you can do in here to deal with accessibility, right?
Pull up this inspector tools. So there is some, so like I mentioned earlier, like you can get, there are several extensions that can help. So like, there is the bookmarklet, the HTML code sniffer bookmarklet. There is Axe, which you can get in your developer tools. You can, let's see if I can find the link real quick to the Axe website. I'm pretty sure it's in my slides. I can find that really quick. Where are you, Axe? Go to page. Come on, Keynote. Let's see. So there's the link.
So Bridget, I tried to click the screen share button and it says denied. You can't do it. You have to refresh your browser. And if I refresh my browser, it's going to restart this whole video thing. So
you don't,
I can't
you
do
just
it again.
Control Command Shift 4 on your Mac. Control Command Shift 4, and you can screenshot anything. Did I teach you?
Yeah, no, I was just going to do a screen share.
Screen share.
Well, I was going to do a screen share so you guys can see what we're doing here.
Share. Oh, I see what's happening.
Yeah, but FireTalk makes me refresh before I do it, so it's weird.
No, that's too risky.
I know.
We only have 20 minutes left too. We don't want to jinx ourselves.
So there's.
All right, so we got the.
You can get the Axe extension. You can get the code sniffer. You can get the Totally extension. You can get. There's a couple other Chrome extensions like. There is a screen reader called ChromeVox that it's not that great though, but it's there. There's a Chrome extension called Accessibility Developer Tools that helps with a few things. Let's see what else there's.
Yeah, there's that one that makes all the graphics really blurry, and it does stuff for if you have cataracts or if you have any other type of eye issues, it'll show floaters on the page and do all that fun stuff, right?
Yeah. So another important element to accessibility is heading structure. So like it's really important to have, your 1H1, you have your H2s and your H3s and your H4s. It's really important to have, your paragraphs and all your markup because a lot of times, people like it helps with screen reading and things like that. But, like a lot of times it's really great to just like disable images on your website and see, what it looks like and how it functions and things like that. So there's really easy things you can do like developer tools in Firefox and Chrome to like disable images or like just to say like one time just disable style sheets and see like what the flow of your page looks like, because that's what the most part a screen reader is going to read. Basically, if your site was stripped of its styles,
wow.
What would your site look like, or how would it flow? And so that can be really helpful. There's a really cool there's some tools that you can do like if you're more of a developer and you can kind of integrate into your workflow there. So like HTML code sniffer does have like a command line thing you can use. There's also this thing called Pally, pally.org. Let's find. Let's see. Here's the link. Pally.org is pretty cool. They have this out of the box dashboard that you can install as long as you like have a Mongo database, and that will run basically kind of like scan your site for you and make reports. And it's really nice. It uses HTML code sniffer, and it will also it also lets you do like command line accessibility reports, which is kind of neat. I gave an accessibility talk at WordCamp Miami earlier this year, and I pulled up the command line and like I think I basically ran a report of like WordPress.org or something. I picked on WordPress.org a lot in that talk, but they're not that bad. And but you can make this really you can even make like a JSON kind of feed that has your report. So then I guess you could take that and put it in something else, which is really cool. So I like Pally a lot, and I like to play around with it. And then so we talked about Wave.
I'm telling you, Rachel goes around the web.
There are several.
Rachel goes around the web and she sits there and judges people. She does. You need to have like a little badge. You need like a Wally badge that just says like, this particular site did really well on all 9,000 tests that I ran on it before I started interacting with your website. You need to make it happen,
Yeah,
Rachel.
but you're Southern, so you gotta say, "Oh, it's not accessible." Bless your heart. Every insult just says "bless his heart" at the end. That's what it should say. Like after it runs the script, "Oh, bless your heart, you have 139 errors." Bless his heart. Go make a sweet tea. Get back to work.
You got some work to do. Go put the kettle on.
Watch my WordCamp talk. It's okay. You can start over, honey. It's okay.
Oh, it's so
and
funny.
Roll Tide.
You're so
God. It'll start soon. Only like 9-10 days.
That's precious. Yeah, that's the other one, James. That's precious.
Oh, that's precious.
You have 179 errors. That's precious.
It's precious. That is not precious. I'm telling you.
Oh, bless his heart. I didn't think I'd laugh at an accessibility episode. These commenting people in our chat room are funny.
Y'all, he's so funny.
Y'all's funny.
Y'all are great. I will harp on again though. Like I never want anyone to like feel overwhelmed, like see 79 errors and freak out and like say forget that. That just start small. Like run some, like you don't even, like a lot of this, you don't even have to like read up on the information, to get started. A lot of these tools will explain to you. They'll tell you this is what's wrong and this is why, and here's how to fix it. Like the Wave tool gets really extensive in its reports. And so then you can take that information, like it tells you exactly, like here's what you need to do to fix it. And so then you can just kind of go and like just one error at a time, maybe make it a goal for the next 79 days, Jason, that you're gonna fix, one error a day. You're gonna sit down for a minute every morning and fix one error. And as long as you're making progress, you are trying. Like that's like no one's perfect, and it's not about being perfect. It's about trying. And about having empathy and having this desire to make your information accessible to everyone.
Right. I have a question about that. So like on Moz, we do crawl errors. And then on client sites, I'll go in there and fix this. That's why I spend so much time in Yoast, Metabox. Oh, this title's too long, blah, 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 blah. Is it possible that of those 79 errors, 12 of them are the same thing? When you fix the one thing, it fixes all 12.
That happens a lot. Because like, especially with like blogs, like example would be like if you have a blog and say like on your homepage, you have like your 20 recent articles or whatever. And in that one snippet of code for every article, there was an error. And so you had 20 errors because it's repeated 20. But that block of code is probably, and so you fix that one time. And you just got rid of 20 errors. And so that happens a lot. I would have these reports. Back at my old school, I had this really great tool called Site Improve. And it's not a free tool. It's a really great tool though. And it would do accessibility reports and stuff like that. And it did a lot more than that. But basically if there was an error, say like in the header or footer, that was one error and it would count that on every page. So we would have these websites with thousands of pages, like we would have thousands of errors, but you go and you fix it and then you just fixed 1,000 errors in one fell swoop, and so, yeah. So a lot of these things like that you fix it once and you've made a big impact.
I'm about to change a whole menu that has a whole bunch of this really pretty blue into something that's probably going to be really ugly. We're going to see right now.
Well, while you're fixing your site, Rochelle is saying, hey, ethically, I feel like I need to include this in my development process for every project, but time is money. No, what do you think?
My answer to that would be that So like data shows that like 20% of people have some kind of disability. And so if your site is inaccessible, you could be restricting your content from like 1 in 5 users or 20% of people. So like if you sell products or you sell services and 20% of your users, you know, can't access your website in order to buy said products or buy services or learn more about you or whatever, then that's 20% of potential like money you're not getting.
So fixing that could change your bounce rate.
It could, I mean, it could do that. It could improve your SEO because good accessibility is good markup and good markup is good SEO. And so you could improve that at the same time. And so there's lots of, I mean, there's no bad, like there's no bad results that come out of making your site more accessible. And
how much more time do you think it takes for, like, to make it that way?
I think that is, I mean, I feel like at first it might seem a little daunting, like we've been talking about. But so like maybe, you know, at first just kind of like some baby steps. If you're a developer, I would definitely recommend just integrating, like if you've got a gulp workflow or a grant workflow, you work that into it. And so then every time it runs, you know, you're notified, and that way it's like, it's a habit, and that's not really going to be like, you know, taking too much. It's going to add time. Like there's no getting around it. It's another step in your testing. I mean, it's, but I feel like you'll get to a point where it's not a time suck, you know, like it's, you know, it's not going to just take up huge amounts of your time, but I mean, it's, you know, not gonna lie, it's, you know, it's gonna take up some time, and then it's something that you kind of have to start including in all of your like conversations about new functionality. You know, if you want some fancy, you know, thing going on, then you gotta add, you know, accessibility, you know, concerns into it, things like that. You know, they seem to not have become super. They've seemed to kind of died off lately. But like infographics, you know, were really popular there for a while. They're still, you know, people still like them, but you know, those are like on their own horribly inaccessible because, you know, someone who's say blind can't read that. And so if you're wanting to do a big fancy infographic, then you've got to have a text equivalent. So you've got to, you know, figure out what that looks like. And so, yeah, if you're doing video content, then you've got to do captioning, or audio, then you've got to have a text transcript. And that's another element. Or it's, you know, it's money to, you know, hire someone to write a transcript. Video wise, so like YouTube and Vimeo actually provide captioning. So like it's like you upload your video, and then they will kind of automatically try to caption it for you. And it's bless your heart. Good job.
It's awful.
It's great.
It's awful.
It's better than like. It's better than nothing. And a lot of times, like, even if it's just like get YouTube to make the initial attempt and then go in and fix it. So like, then go in and be like, yeah, they didn't say that word. And, you know, so it's been, if the YouTube thing can do like half the work for you and then you go in and fix it, it's better than nothing. So you have to start considering that into your various content. If you have a plethora, you know, of content, if you have some crazy, you know, interactive content, you know, that, you know, you got to start thinking about that and keeping that in mind. And so, yeah, it will add a little bit of time, but I feel like the benefits are pretty high, and so it's worth the time. It's just kind of getting it into your workflow and making it become a daily habit, as opposed to like, you know, just trying to think of it as this, you know, big unreachable goal, and don't let it overwhelm you.
I feel a little bit overwhelmed, but or under. Yeah,
wow.
I feel like this is going to be this is
it's a total role reversal.
No, I feel like I feel like there's a lot of work to do, but I think that if you do it, like we were talking about earlier, is that, you know, one of the questions Bridget asked is, while you're building the site, thinking about these things while you're building it. But on top of that, the content that you're putting into the site, you need to think about this stuff as well, which means that you need to have, you need to have some rules that are in place that are going to make it so that the person, you know, if you're not going through and putting all of the alt tags and everything else like that, and you're using some plugin to actually do that for you, at least make sure that you're naming all the files something that kind of describes what's going on in that photo. And, you know, there's those types of things that you could just do just before you go and write that, you know, go and hit the publish button when you're writing that post.
I busted on the click here, that's for sure.
Are you running a test?
No, I just know. That's the call to action. Click here, read more. Boom. That's, you know, there's always that at the end. So something like that or whatever. I do that a lot. And I think my own website is Hemingway theme. And I think it doesn't have underlines. Because most of the time I'm like, where are my links? I'm saying that. It's just some other color and you barely could see it. You just know when you hover. But now I know I can tab. So
I think, a lot of a very popular design thing now is there's no underlines. And it drives me a little crazy. But it's okay. So what was I gonna say though? Forgot what I was gonna say. But education is big, like, because like I mean, like people have been saying in the chat, it's like you got to train, and you have to train, you know, clients and editors anyway. So like kind of make it part of the training, like how important captions or alt attributes are. And just how important it is. Like, I feel like a lot of the time, if you just kind of explain why it's important, like not just be like, hey, you know, put captions on images and leave it at that, but like explain, if you just spend the extra like 5 minutes, explain why it's so important and the impact it can have on our users, then they'll keep that in mind more, or make a checklist for them. Like every time they, you know, publish content, go down this checklist. Do you have images? If so, do they have captions or, you know, alt, you know, tags? You know, do you have any links? You know, do the links, you know, provide context? In other words, they not say click here, things like that. And so, you know, that can be helpful to kind of give out and just, you know, and I'm working on, so my next feature for Wally is basically like the thing that will kind of scan the content in the editor and kind of give you a report from the content.
Nice.
That will be helpful too. And basically it's like you could essentially turn it on and be like, do not allow people to publish content if it does not pass, you know, whatever. Like, and so
so Yoast and Wally, and then you're good to go.
That would be really awesome. So so education is big, and like we've been talking about the whole time, I feel like a lot of this is education and just kind of advocating for, you know, not necessarily that you should do this, but why you should do this, and you know how the impact it can have on, you know, your users and just kind of life in general and people, and just how important the people are. And that's, you know, that's what your website's for. It's for the people, and if they can't access your content, then what's the point of your website? You know, and so that can go a long way.
Awesome. So where can folks go and find you, Rachel? Where can they find you, and where can they find all the work that you're doing in this space?
I need to have more of a website than what I do. At least it's accessible.
All of her links are text links, and that's it. I went on there. I was like, yeah, well, you know, if my site was like that, I'd probably be doing pretty well too.
Look at that. Look at that pretty tabbing. But you can find me on Twitter, Bama Designer. You can, so I just released Wally. You can find that in the repo, and it's spelled W-A-11Y. For those unawares, the accessibility kind of abbreviation / hashtag is A11Y, which is kind of falls in line with the kind of standard web way of shortening words. There are 11 letters between A and Y. And so Wally is WA11Y for web accessibility. And so the plugin's in the repo, and then wally.org I just set up, and you can go in there, and it's right now it's a landing page to try to get people try to get some volunteers. I want to build a resource, a web accessibility website resource, kind of with like a blog, but also with tutorials and educational materials. So that way people can have a place to go through and learn all this stuff in one place. There are lots of resources already available, and so this would kind of be just another, just another one. But be my way of giving back, and probably will have a little bit of a, we probably will have a little bit of a WordPress focus, just because just because that's how I roll. And so you want to go on there and sign up on the mailing list. I'm gonna try to get the first kind of email out in the next week or so, and start rounding up, people. We'll probably use Slack to kind of talk to each other, things like that, and kind of get the ball rolling. And so that would be really great if you want to help and contribute. Even if you just you want to write content, or you want to maybe you want to start making tools. And so we can work on tools together and things like that. Or if you want to be a tester, you want to be the one like Jason who goes around and just judges all the sites. I'm just kidding. But we're not going to be the Wally judges. So go there and sign up, and we'll get started soon. And then that's it. And so obviously WPCampus, if you want to find me, if you work in higher ed, you can go on WPcampus.org and fill out our Get Involved form. And so I will be at WordCamp LA in 2 weeks, which I'm really excited about. And I'm going to be talking on Sunday about accessibility. And but yeah, hit me up on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Rachel, for being on. I really appreciate it. Bridget really appreciates it. We learned a whole bunch about stuff that some of the stuff we didn't even know existed, and some of these things we really wish that we did better. I've been working on this right now. I took that 52 down to a 32 just by changing some colors. So I did a really good job.
Give that man a sticker.
I'll have it down to a 10.
Oh, man. Yeah,
a donut.
I will say all of the text is now black, and all of the pretty blue is now this really dark blue. But you can now read it, so that's awesome.
What size is WaterCooler? Can I read it now?
What size?
No, this is jasontucker.us. Folks, that's about it. Go over to our website, take a look at all that stuff that we got going on over there. We do a lot of stuff with video stuff and audio stuff, and we do podcasts. So go check all those things out over at WPwatercooler.com.
Subscribe.
Thanks a lot. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.